Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, which is how to write a book. There's so many things to say about this, and I've been coached to start with the beginning, which makes logical sense, but to kind of stick in that beginning a little bit, which I'm not going to do, but I'll mostly stay in the beginning in order to help you think about the process of what it takes to write a book. I will have to say that I've been thinking about starting a business, and the two processes are eerily similar. What I mean by the similarity is actually the overwhelming part. When a new idea or a new desire to create something of the size of a business or a book, and let's stick with the book here now, it's a lot of work, and it's so big to begin with that it feels unaccomplishable, undoable. It gets intimidating. Ideas change. That's intimidating. And that process of imagining what one wants to write takes some time. That's the starting point. Imagining what you want to write, and then managing or tolerating the overwhelming feeling of it being so big. And it is big. And it's big because our ideas are big, and in order to really communicate them, even when I'm doing this video with you, at the beginning I always think, oh, I don't have enough to say about this particular topic, and then I realize as I'm talking to you that there's so much to say if I want to make what I'm saying coherent. And that's important to think about when setting out a book plan. It's going to be big, and it's probably going to change. The structure, the writing, maybe even the line of research, the chapters, it's just going to change through the process. Alas, a first step is imagining the idea, getting the idea down, the core idea, getting a thesis statement, that may even change, but setting out some kind of brick road, so to speak, of ideas, structure related to this kind of thesis statement, that will be the starting point. From there, then the big work starts, but it may take some time to get your mind sorted to the thesis statement, that you will proceed and trust that it may change, but that all that groundwork that you've done before is kind of a foundation to help for that change to be supported. That essentially, if you were to look up online how to write a book, is what people are going to call like deciding on your topic. I always like to hold though, this may change. This may change form, it may change shape, it may change, the research may change. That brings me to a second step in the beginning process, which relates directly to writing a book proposal, and that is doing the research. Now, not the research for what you want to write, but the research of what other people wrote, so that you know where you fit in the overall kind of arching intellectual history of any particular topic. I would imagine this goes for nonfiction. If I were writing a nonfiction book, I would do this exactly the same way, because I've done the process a few times and I like the way that my process goes. But this is particularly important for nonfiction, because when you're conducting or writing a book proposal, what you want to be able to show, and this is also true for grants, if any of you are applying for grants, what you want to show is how your work, thesis, research, book, etc., fills a gap in the particular intellectual history that you are writing into. I'm writing 2 books right now, and the process has been researching, we're at that research stage, what books have the similar topic to us or do the same things. And I'm writing both of these books with other people, so I do mean us. So what other books are written around the topic that we're interested in that are the most similar to our idea? What are other topics that have the same method or style of our book? So maybe outside of our topic, but that the books are structured exactly how we envision our book being structured. That helps us then, as we see the books and where we're filling in, identify and go back to refreshing and rephrasing the thesis statement. So I'm looking at book A and I'm like, this is exactly what we're doing, but it's missing Y. And then I say, oh, we're really wanting to include why in this particular topic and this thesis. So we have to go back and work that thesis to highlight what's missing in the book that now we've identified we really want to write about. Generally, I suggest 30 books and then whittling those down to 10, maybe 7 to 10 that are more closely related. You can think about it in terms of circles. So you have your book at the center, your thesis statement at the center, and then you have 7 to 10 books around your thesis statement that relate the most, but which have gaps in them that you're feeling in your thesis statement. And then there might be some tangential books, another 20 or so that are similar, but more outside of your thesis topic. All of those books can be included in your bibliography and be part of what you review in order to write at a later stage. But those books that are the closest, those help you identify your thesis statement, and then also I will add your audience. Now, I've done this a few times in terms of writing a book, and one of the things that I tell people and the people who are writing with me is to not think about style yet. Don't think about the writing style. In this last book I wrote, I had 2 distinct styles based on what I decided the parts were trying to convey and who the parts were talking to and what the parts were talking about. But I had no idea that I was going to do that at the beginning of the research. 0. Thinking about writing style will just be overwhelming, and it's a detail that comes much, much later. Then where are we? This is the writing stage. Just write stuff down. Don't try to make it be pretty. Maybe don't even try to put it in order. That's how I write. Not the best. It's not the best time saver. Making outlines, making order, that can be a more efficient process, but I'm not structured that way. I just like to start writing. And then as I write, I'm like, okay, this belongs here. This is a different idea. I may not use it. It belongs over here. I even have a section of everything I write. Every chapter has a section of extras. And once I put things in that extra section, I literally don't look at them until the very end. And then I say, oh, does this belong in here, or am I throwing it away? And if it doesn't belong, it gets thrown away. Sometimes I save the extras, but usually it's either getting integrated into what I've written or it's deleted, actually. That might be a little dangerous. So I would say, if you want to keep things, have a file where you keep all your extras. I have a reader. Sometimes I have multiple readers of any given thing I'm writing. I only trust one person to look at my rough drafts because she protects my heart in responding to me, to not tell me things are awful, even if they are. I suggest editors or finding somebody that can read for you, or an alternative, if you don't have somebody or don't feel comfortable with somebody reading, is to put a draft aside and give it a week, 2 weeks before you look at it again, so that you look at it freshly and then you become the editor. That works too. What I would suggest, if I can take this little sideline, if you get a paper assignment and you immediately have an idea, write a draft as soon as you can and don't get attached to it, but look at it later and you'll have some of the core pieces that you need to write the paper and you'll be ahead of the game. It's a great strategy. After first draft is a second draft and a third and a fourth and a fifth, and I don't even know how many drafts I did for each chapter of my book. I would say probably an average of 7, maybe an average of 6, maybe 7's a little too much. The second draft would be more coherent ideas. Knowing the structure of a particular chapter, it starts to take shape over the second draft. The third draft is going in and doing more transitions. Now I know in the third draft, this is how it's going to go. Now I have to start connecting the ideas and making sure that paragraph A fits with paragraph B, fits with paragraph C. I usually do that transition in stages. I usually create those transitions in sections. So I know here's a section 1. I want all the transitions in that section to be good. And then I go to the next section, etc. in any given chapter. I do not do 2 chapters at once. I try to focus on 1 chapter at a time, especially at this level. At the free writing or the first draft, it doesn't matter. I'm writing wherever I write. But as I get further through the editing process or further through the drafts, I try to keep my mind on 1 particular project at a time or 1 particular chapter at a time. After I've done transitions, usually I go back in and look at structure. So a 4th draft of structure within any given paragraph. So is this the order of the thoughts I actually want? I might look at order within any given paragraph prior to writing transitions. It depends on where my head is and what I want to do at that point, because I'm trying to make this a less painful process, although I actually love editing. I love it. I don't know why. It's so particular. It's very particular work. Then the more exciting process comes for me. Now's writing, the real writing. This is the real writing for me. This is thinking about how I'm going to lead my reader through my words and my thoughts and my mind. What is the style? How do I want the subject and verb? What do I want the tone to be? How do I want the rhythm to be? And I think about all of these things. Those are the last 2. That last edit is always then going to also be for punctuation, but I kind of watch that throughout my process. But I do a read that's purely for punctuation, which means I might read the pages out of order so that I'm not thinking about the ideas. I'm mostly thinking about punctuation. But that 5th draft, it is really about the craft of the writing and really one of the most exciting parts. Also, that might be a time to make sure you're not repeating words, but that stage does not happen 4 drafts earlier. And if you try to make writing perfect on 1st and 2nd draft, it's a good way to go crazy, in my honest opinion. One other thing I should throw into the discussion related to this has to do with discipline. This is a daily process. And for me, it kind of doesn't matter how much time I spend on any given day, but that I spend time on every day. It's pretty hard to do right now with thinking about 2 books. I haven't figured out the balance of doing 2 books at once. But if I'm not doing this every day, then I can't progress the thought. So it has less to do with producing the writing and more about my thought continuing to move along a continual pathway so that I'm capable of getting to that 5th and 6th draft where I'm really crafting the writing. I do think you can adapt this process to paper writing. You can adapt this process to really creating anything new. One thing in my process that I think about is I'm trying to get to 80% by draft 5th. I'm trying to get to about 80% of where I want to be by the 5th draft. It's those later drafts that I'm working towards 100. Why this is important is because it will resist perfectionism. Because if I try to make it perfect at the beginning, I can get locked and not have any movement. So the perfection, making it pretty, that happens at the end. Good luck. If you plan on doing any kind of project or writing a book or working on a paper and using this, let me know how it goes and take care. Thanks.